I don't know why we've not shot a video here before. It's actually very nice. But don't tell anyone where it is because they're not allowed to come here first of all. But good place. So yeah, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so today we are talking about the KTM 390 Adventure.
Okay.
2025.
Which one?
S.
Question one. Which one? So there's a few.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a few adventures, and you know that actually both of us have been looking forward to this bike a lot for different reasons. We'll get to that shortly. So. Test mules of the 390 Adventure have been spotted in and around Pune basically the past half year, 7 months, even more actually.
Correct.
And we all know that the main problem with the current 390 Adventure is that it was basically just a Duke with some different revised bodywork, different ergonomics. Basically, the rest of the way it behaved was not that different from the Naked. So for most people, the Duke ended up being the more sensible option to go ahead with, unless you wanted more space.
And a pillion, for that matter.
Yeah, definitely. So space is one thing that the Adventure did very well. So if you want space, if you want to put someone on the back, if you want to put luggage,
just carry your house on the bike.
Exactly.
390 Adventure.
That did it extremely well. It was a sizable machine, but it wasn't really an adventure bike.
Exactly.
That was the main problem with the current one, right? So when we saw test shots of the new one being tested, pehle to the headlight was super polarizing.
I mean, not the KTM 390 or in general
Not
the KTM language.
Yeah, not at all. They basically turned it into like a cyborg, and the wrap, it's wrapped completely like that actually. Yeah. So we couldn't make out a lot of details from the bodywork, but from what we could tell, it looked a little more raised. It looked a little more Dakar inspired in terms of the styling. We saw that raised TFT, which obviously gained a lot of interest from people. And some people loved it, some people hated it, but that's just the way KTM does things.
And that's design in the end. So
of course.
Subjective.
So we can definitely conclude that now Kiska is the company which designs KTMs. So they have basically designed the new ones in such a way that they are going to create an opinion. So you will not fall in a spectrum where you kind of like the Duke. You will either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
The Duke, do you love it or do you hate it?
The Gen 3?
Yeah.
I haven't ridden it. But
to look at.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
The headlight, okay. But we're not talking about the Gen 3.
Fair enough.
But yes, the design language, I would say looks amazing.
Fair enough. So, right. So coming to the Adventure, as you know, I've been waiting. Why I've been waiting? Off. Yeah. So EICMA finally happened, and EICMA they revealed the 390 Adventure R, which is the range topper for the world. So that is an all-new machine. It is a serious off-roader. It has 230 mm of travel front and back. It's got the new WP Explore suspension, which is like tailor-made for off-roaders. It's lighter, it's got more ground clearance, it's got a bigger tank, it's got a raised visor. The screen is positioned more in your line of sight. They've raised the whole cockpit above. They've given it a very nice off-roader, tourer sort of vibe. And while we don't have a lot of details yet, obviously, if by some miracle KTM reveals more details between us shooting this and me editing it, I'll just put it as a caption. But basically, a lot of people loved that bike.
Right. But is it coming to India?
Yes. So that is the thing. The R, I'll tell you where I found this out actually. So I went to IBW. I was working with Tivra at the time.
Okay.
And I went for work. But the KTM area was right next to our stall. So I was just going there, beach mein kind of. And the R was not there. But a new variant was there, which was not unveiled at EICMA. So at EICMA, they showed the R and they said that an X would follow. At IBW, they launched a new variant called the S.
This is only for Indian market?
The S is the range topper for India. India is not getting the Adventure R. That's what the KTM guys said. There are no plans to bring the Adventure R or the SMCR to India. So the ones that they showcased there was the Adventure 390S and the Enduro R.
Okay.
But since then, SMCRs have been spite testing in Pune in the last 2 months.
Correct.
So that might change. Obviously, the KTM guys have been PR trained in such a way so as to know what to say and what not to say.
Right.
So the Adventure S is there. I'll tell you the difference between the Adventure S and the Adventure R. So the Adventure S has a different suspension unit. It has a WP Apex, which is the one used on the street bikes, but it has more travel. It has close to 180 mm of travel, which is still not as good as the R's 230, decent enough. And the bikes, of course, they're running the same sort of adjustable suspension that the Duke gets. So you've got compression and rebound at the front, and preload and compression at the back.
Okay.
Now the bikes at IBW were on a very soft setting. So when we sat on them, they just went right down to the point that I am 5 feet 10 and both my feet were almost flat on the ground.
Which is a good thing for short riders as well.
100%. And I think short riders can definitely rock this bike. You play around with the suspension a bit, it's a learning curve at the end of the day. You will be fine.
Exactly.
Everything else is not that different. The wheel sizes are different. Adventure R, 21 inch front, 18 inch rear.
Correct.
Adventure S, 21 inch front, 17 inch rear. Another thing that we found out at IBW, tubeless spoke wheels are standard,
Okay.
which is amazing. Which is amazing. Pehle to Enfield is offering them at 11,000, which is still amazing.
Exactly.
Which is still amazing. Like doing it at a very good price. I would have been okay with that. But apparently, what a lot of people found out at IBW is that will be standard. Cruise control is standard. Ride modes, all that. It's getting the IMU from the R. So there's there's no feature differences as such. The powertrain is the same. It's the 399cc LC4C from the Duke 390 Gen 3 with a sprocket change.
Right.
It's got more
So
teeth
final
on the
drive
back.
is different.
Yeah. So more teeth at the back to give it more torque, more low end torque. Approximate power figures I can tell you because we know what the Duke makes, but there will be some plus and minus here. So we're talking around 47 bhp and 39 Newton meters of torque, good amount.
Great.
It will be lighter than the Himalayan. How much lighter we don't know yet.
Okay.
It will definitely be lighter because the Himalayan is heavy. It caps out at around 205 to 214. It goes loaded, I think, which is a heavy bike. Feels like you're riding a horse.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very. I liked it, but it's heavy. It's a heavy motorcycle. Speculations are it'll have a 17-liter tank. But again, KTM is very slow with releasing these details. They're actually being so slow
Exactly.
to the point that EICMA happened, IBW happened. Other bike makers like TVS and Aprilia have released bikes.
The adventure came through just yesterday.
Yeah. So Aprilia is literally saying that the 210 will be coming in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that was revealed after the adventure and it will come before the adventure. So I think KTM is taking a while to put this bike out.
Exactly.
To be honest.
So I feel KTM is doing it right at the first shot.
Yeah.
They know the amount of liking towards the 390 adventure that in general the entire community has in India.
Yeah.
One of the biggest bikes for the cheapest money you can get when it comes to adventure bikes.
Good bang for buck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also to set a new standard is what I feel with the current 390 adventure that will be launching. Cruise control with all the specs, the engine. So in general KTM is doing their own thing with okay, let's take this slow.
Yeah.
We'll make it right in the first go.
I hope they do.
Exactly.
I hope they do.
And Deva is the one who's actually sat on the KTM 390 adventure. So it's not just we are speculating and saying, okay, just off the images, this is going to happen.
So I've been around it, I've sat on it. We've not ridden it. Nobody has ridden it yet.
Is,
So this is basically a discussion to what we can expect, what we've seen so far. So I can tell you that it's a narrow motorcycle.
Okay.
So that the seat is narrow at the front, it tapers a little towards the back.
It's good for off-roading.
It's good for off-roading, and what that also means is even if the seat height is slightly higher, for if you set it on a slightly stiffer setting, because the seat is a little narrower, your legs can reach more freely downwards.
Okay.
That is good. One slightly weird thing, pillion comfort. The seat ends and then the fender extends further back.
Okay.
So there is some dead space about that much dead space behind the seat till where the fender ends, and that is a removable piece of plastic.
Oh.
So first thought was ki maybe if the seat had come back a little more, because it doesn't look like a very comfortable pillion seat because of how short it is. I think the current seat looks better. Again, I haven't ridden, haven't tested it, but the current seat looks a lot more accommodating for pillions. But if that piece of plastic is removable, it's like you can see that you can just unscrew a couple bolts and it looks like it will come off. It's a flimsy piece of plastic. It's a cap basically.
Okay.
So looking at that, I am speculating ki is that a mounting point for accessories? Is what I'm thinking. Is there a genuine top rack that is going to go there? I'm just speculating. The grab rails, obviously, you can take those off and use those as pannier mounts. But at the top, I'm just figuring out what they're going to do with that tail piece.
That is something that we'll have to wait for again.
We'll have to wait for, Again, after that tail piece ends, the tail extends even further because there's a government regulation which says your number plate has to be behind the wheel.
Correct.
So the tail goes quite a bit far back. I think even a small tail tidy there will make it look a lot cleaner basically. And the whole bike, the way they've executed the bodywork is I think very clean, and it's a very minimalist but not too off-roady. So like it looks like an off-road inspired bike. It doesn't look like a proper Dakar rally bike, which the R might sometimes. Because the R is higher, So I think in appearances, the R actually looks more proportionate
Okay.
because it sits higher.
A tower in the front at the headlight
Yeah.
for the R. So it's more off-road oriented for
Both
your-
have the towers.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah.
So both have the same.
The high mounted
height.
TFT,
Correct.
that is the same.
And the height as well. That is the same across R and DS.
The height of the bike,
Height of the
screen, that's the same.
Okay.
That's the same.
It's a taller thing.
Yeah. So
And-
both of them have a C-type charging point behind the screen as well. That's
Okay.
that's quite useful. Even the Duke has that.
Okay.
So that's a pretty
In
useful
terms
addition.
of quality, what do you feel?
Quality is as good as can be, honestly. It's pretty standard from what we've seen from KTM. If you've ridden the Gen 3 Duke, this is pretty similar to that.
Okay.
So the bodywork, the plastics, the switch gear is exactly the same.
Same, yeah.
There's no difference between the switch gear of the Adventure and the Duke, except the cruise control button.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only
That
difference.
is the only
that's
change in
that's
terms
the
of
only
switch
difference. Yeah.
cubes and everything.
Yeah, that's the same. So there's a cruise control button next to the hazard switch on the left switch cube, and there is a toggle switch underneath the switch cube which you can operate with your index finger and your thumb.
Oh,
So you push your thumb, it increases the speed. You pull it back with
Index.
index, decreases the speed. So it's like a pretty ergonomically. I have twiddled around it a little bit. Feels pretty decent. Just need to ride the thing, man.
Exactly.
I can't wait. This is all speculation. Once I get my hands on it, I've told the guys at KTM Bund Garden to give me a call soon as a test ride bike is available. I'm very interested. I really need to have a go at this.
these are just first opinions, honestly. We're
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at pictures.
This is not even a first
Yeah,
opinion. It's like
just-
this is a 50% first opinion. Because none of us have ridden it.
None,
But
exactly.
it's a good discussion.
You have ridden all of the KTMs.
I've ridden
at this
literally
point,
all the KTMs that have
except
come up.
the super bikes, obviously.
Yeah.
The 390 range and below.
Yeah, 390 and below, every KTM I've ridden. Yeah.
And for a good amount of
Good
kilometers
amount of
on
time.
each bike.
Yes.
So you have a good knowledge and a knowledge base for every KTM that is out there.
Yeah.
Differences of the R and S, I'll sum it up for you. So different seat heights, different rear tire size. The R has the 18
Yep.
and the S has the 17
Correct.
inch. For India, we are expecting all of the cruise controls, and it is just going to be one variant is what we are expecting the S to be. So it's
No.
uh-huh.
No. So there is another variant. So in the current adventure lineup, we have the SW, we have the standard, and we have the X.
Yeah.
So the X will be coming. Now the X will be a road biased bike. It will have a 19-inch front and a 17-inch rear.
Okay.
It will be running alloy wheels with
Okay.
obviously tubeless. But it will not have an IMU. So everything that comes with the IMU is not there.
So no traction control, no.
I think they can
cornering
still
ABS.
pull off the traction control with the ride-by-wire system, I think.
Okay.
But cornering ABS, cornering traction control, all those advanced rider aids where it puts the bike in a
Yeah.
3D space and
And
like
that-
figures
and-
out what
yeah,
to do, that you'll lose out on. My biggest kink in this bike is that you lose the color TFT. So the
Yeah.
unit is the same, but it's
Backlit
LC.
LED,
It's
yeah.
so like the current 250 Adventure. I don't like that.
Honestly.
Because you have that nice screen unit and the black and white doesn't look good. It might be a personal thing. If you don't care about it and you want a more road biased bike, then sure, go for it.
Okay. Questions क्या होते हैं आपके?
Yeah, sorry about that. We have to record a
Yeah.
little part again. So, because I'm an idiot. Yeah. So, Sud, to quote one of our favorite automotive channels, why don't you give us a quick summary of what we've discussed today?
Okay, so the summary for today's video, we're talking about the KTM 390 Adventures that were first showcased at EICMA. They were saw it at IBW, sat on it, and also just had a feel about the motorcycle. I mean, he was already mentally, but okay, we'll cut this part. We spoke about the KTM 390 Adventure R and the S.
Yeah.
R is the
X as well.
X as well.
Yeah.
X and the S are coming to India.
Correct.
The
X is
R-
coming a little bit after the S.
After the S. Okay.
The S and the Enduro R are what are launching immediately and are open for booking as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And R is not coming to India.
No.
R is the most off-road focused motorcycle in the 390 lineup, which is again not coming to India.
Yeah.
Differences here: 18-inch rear and KTM Explorer suspension on the R, with a higher seat height, with a taller seat height.
Yeah. Around 885 mm seat height
That
on
is
the R.
very tall.
Yeah.
That is very tall. I mean, 6-foot guy.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
390 Adventure S, 17-inch rear, also spoked wheels that are tubeless.
Correct.
Which is a big thing.
Amazing, yeah.
And standard. So,
KTM does this a lot. Like they will give you a lot of stuff. It's generally all standard.
exactly.
Because for some reason KTM don't think India are worthy of bringing power parts to. We don't deserve it for whatever reason.
the biggest markets in the end
Yeah.
also.
The R had some really nice power parts as well. It has these flush integrated fog lights which are inside the fairing.
Right, which is what was shown
Yeah.
in the launch.
Yes, so very similar to what you get on an F850 GS.
Correct.
Like flush.
In the
Then there-
fairing itself.
Yeah, there's a bash plate as well, and there were a couple other things which I can't remember now.
Okay.
But some nice power parts were there.
So the power parts is something that we are not sure of because KTM has this habit of not launching their power parts. in
Most
PNM.
brands keep some nice stuff out of India.
Exactly.
I don't know why they do that, but if they bring it here, there will be plenty of takers. I don't understand what the hold up is. So.
It is also getting the same engine as the current Gen 3 Duke
Yeah,
390.
the 399cc LC4C,
Correct.
around 46.5 to 47 horsepower, 39 Nm. There will be some plus minus here. I'm expecting a little bit more torque and a little bit less power.
So final in the
Final numbers we'll
drive
get in a bit, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The final point. What do you think will the price of 390 come to?
Okay, so the current one, the standard, is around 4.10 on road.
Pune.
Yeah, and approx ballpark. Don't quote me on this. It's around that much. The SW is about 20-25 grand dearer. I'm expecting this one to be around 40 to 50 grand more than the standard.
Okay, so a 10%.
That's what I'm
hike.
expecting. Yeah, based on what KTM has told me to expect, the showroom guys. IBW, they gave us a few hints. They didn't give too much away. They're not allowed
Yeah.
to. And based on what some leading journalists are speculating as well, I'm expecting 4.5, 4.6 at a stretch is what the on-road price of this I am expecting to be.
And there is only going to be one or two variants at max.
S will come now, X will come in a while.
Okay.
The Enduro R also has the same engine, but we're not talking about that right now. Yeah.
So two variants is what we're expecting to come very soon.
Yeah.
Very, very soon.
Yeah.
And will be followed by something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the main question again, are you getting one?